Non-discrete electronic music, copyright free to start it off. Welcome to the Saturday Night Power Hour from the Crosse Commission. I'm Ryan. We got Jake and Safe. And some big games that were on the docket today that delivered and lived up to the hype. And got a unique situation this week where we're doing a little bit of game previewing too because of the fun of the Route 1 versus Tobacco Road challenge weekend, I guess, so to speak. So we'll be getting to that as we go along. Of course, we had number 1 versus number 2 go right down to the wire. Some rivalry action, too. Plus, we'll look back at last night's games, too. But before we get to that, it is the Oscars tomorrow night. And I realized this with Jake this morning because I always love, I don't watch any movies, but I always, take a gander at, go on to Wikipedia and see what is up for Best Picture. Is this the most Oscar baity Academy Awards ever?
I haven't seen any yet. I have to do my, because is tomorrow the award ceremony?
Yep. Yeah, tomorrow's the Oscars.
Well, I guess I know what I'm doing after.
But you have wrestling tonight.
Shit, yeah, that's true. Damn. Well, how many can I get? How many can I get in 26 hours? Yeah, damn.
I guess you could skip Wicked because you could always catch it and it's not going to win Best Picture. So
I have only seen.
Let's see how many of these I've seen.
Conclave for the Best Picture.
I did see Conclave. There you go. I saw Conclave. Not a good movie. Good picture.
Yeah.
Okay, it is a good picture because it seemed a little Oscar baity reading the plot on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Look, it's a good movie. I don't say I liked it. I thought it was a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Did not see Complete Unknown.
Yeah, it's the only one.
Timothy Chalamet knows ball.
I saw The Substance. Also a good picture. All right, I saw 2 movies. They're both good. There you go.
Okay. Nothing's ever going to top the year fish sex one. So.
Yeah, that was tough. That beat Dunkirk.
Yeah, Baltimore's shining cultural example over.
That beat Dunkirk, didn't it?
Over the 2015 Baltimore Orioles.
That did beat Dunkirk.
Lamar Jackson.
That was a great year of movies too. But I can't complain anymore. Oppenheimer won last year, so
yeah. It's funny you brought up Dunkirk because I actually aired a clip of that in my history class the other day.
Yeah, Dunkirk, great freaking movie. I like movies. You know what else I like?
Lacrosse.
Sport of lacrosse?
I like lacrosse.
Yes. And you know what I would do if I also liked lacrosse? And I would like this video.
I assume they like this video if they're watching it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they like. I don't know if they like this specific one so far. We haven't really talked about lacrosse yet. 4 minutes in, haven't talked about it at all.
But you can hit the subscribe button for when we eventually talk about lacrosse. Because we do talk about lacrosse, like that Notre Dame Maryland Classic today. You guys had an hour-long video that broke it all down.
Oh yes, we did. Within 2 minutes of that, I said I thought the final score would be 12-10. You know what the final score was?
Within 2 goals?
Yeah, nailed it. Like a fine painter.
If we want our analysis, look at this from our pick'em that we
baby.
We post it, but look at how we
post it now. We still got games tomorrow,
Yeah, look at this. I'm going to share it in a second, but
baby.
Let me get that window up. Here we go. This was us yesterday. I know, we kind of went unanimous, but
Oof. You'd love to see
very nicely unanimous.
You love to see that. That's good stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at today again, this was. I don't know if we were able to get it up or not, but
no, I didn't tweet it. Hey, we still got we got games tomorrow.
Yeah, we got games tomorrow, so a little sneak preview of what we're going to talk about a little later. But, I mean, look at this.
Ooh,
Adam too. Yeah. Look at this.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
We know our stuff here at the Crosse Commission.
Oh man, that's why they pay us the big bucks. Or did.
One of these, eventually, after enough times pass, that there would be no more litigation, aka when Vox Incorporated finally kicks the bucket. Jake and I will have a field day on our retrospective of the SB Nation years.
Yeah, we're just, listen, that's what we're here for, talking lacrosse. We like lacrosse.
Yeah,
I added it to the profile, on the Twitter. Now says lacrosse news, analysis, and commentary. There are no moral victories in lacrosse. We like lacrosse. I think we should talk about lacrosse.
Yeah, I think we should too. Yes. Now, I mean, the question is if Logan McEnany didn't make the greatest kick save of the season,
Jesse Schwartzman,
would Jake still like lacrosse? I think even if in a close loss, you have to appreciate what a great game of lacrosse it was. I think Fighting Irish fans are in that boat too, because that was a great game of lacrosse. Maryland 11, Notre Dame 10. Terps sticking to a formula that's working out very nicely. Shut down defense in the middle 30. And that helped propel them to the win, as well as some other amazing defensive stops. Logan McEnany being among them. We had a friggin' Superman dive for to stop an empty netter as well. So big story. The story of the season so far is if there's one unit that's rising above the rest, it's that Maryland defense. But credit to the Irish for fighting back and with their face-off unit as well, proving to be probably the second most dominant unit in the country at the moment. So very entertaining game. Great crowd there down in Atlanta, 10,000 there at Bobby Dodd Stadium at Georgia Tech. So really good neutral site showcase. Chris was there, and he's been telling us, great atmosphere and everything as well. Mercer, Drexel going on as we speak too. So, we were looking forward to this as a showcase game for the sport of lacrosse, and it sure as heck delivered in a 1 versus 2 battle today.
Well, awesome. I mean, what more could you ask for? Great. I mean, great crowd was great. Yeah, over 10,000. That the Schaller Superman dive to save a goal. Then when Daniel Kelly went down and scored right after, massive 2-goal swing in the game. Really allowed the Terps. You maybe could argue won the game in that moment. Well, they won the game by 1. That's when they opened things up a little bit there in that third quarter. Maryland is owning the third quarter in right now, as Ryan said, owning the middle 30 of these games. They're kind of getting their separation in the third quarter, but you could hear the crowd. Even after they didn't go in, you could hear the "Let's Go Irish" chants there. Our good pal Mark at Philly Stick on Twitter was at the game, said it was just unbelievably loud down there at that moment. It was awesome. Field looked great. They talked about how they scrubbed the football lines off. So it just had a great weather. Sun was out. I wish we could have got more crowd shots at different points of the game. Just kind of get a good idea of how nicely it filled in with both. You had the red behind the Maryland sideline. You had the green behind the Notre Dame bench, behind both benches. But overall, the game delivered on both from the perspective of how both teams delivered up, number 1 versus number 2. a great finish. Notre Dame made it, one punt. They defended their crown and defended their long win streak exactly as you would expect. As Ryan said, the scene, everything up to that point, Georgia Tech did a great job hosting. So it's awesome, man. And yeah, I think neutral. This is what when we talk about neutral site games are the cliche go of the game. That's what you want. Yeah, you want early season, good weather, get the teams out of the kind of frigid, difficult temperatures, and elements of early season. You want them in a place where people can come out and enjoy a Saturday afternoon, and you showcase the best players and the best teams and a local Mercer local program as well. So it was awesome. It felt big time. Exactly what you would want. Just awesome stuff. It couldn't have asked for more. I would say. I mean, you could. I mean, there's things you probably could ask for more, but there's no need to kind of like poke holes and try to like spoil it. It was an awesome game and an awesome scene, and like yes, it was a bunch of fun. It rocked.
Yeah, I mean,
the game was awesome. The game was awesome. Like, just what a freaking awesome lacrosse game. I mean,
I was going to say,
what an awesome game.
When you do something like this, you kind of want it to be a spectacle, and it was in terms of like the atmosphere, the energy in the crowd, and the play on the field. It's most important. The big time players making big time plays. Like you see Big Mac showing up with 16, 17 saves, huge one at the end. The Will Charlotte, as you know, Jake and Ryan, the Superman save, just great moments, and that you want like on national like. I was just going back and forth from the Hopkins game and the Notre Dame Maryland game because like both of them were just really thrilling. So it's just like essentially whichever one had a commercial break, I would just go right back to the other one, and it was just like amazing plays ongoing. But especially I think the stage kind of like helped to like energize the players to like that's what we found with Notre Dame, especially last year. Like the bigger the stage, the better they play. I think they feed on it.
Oh yeah.
Maybe this team's a little bit different, just not as potent, but that's what Maryland does also. Like that, whatever stage it is, they tend to play up to that level, and just like what we wanted to see. If we were going to have like a showcase game, it kind of does need to be like feel a little bit larger than a regular season game, and I think it has certainly fit the bill. Anyone who was watching that for the first time saw like two of the premier teams, excellent players, great coaches, the atmosphere, and maybe that may encourage some programs in the area to like schools in the area to maybe start a program. And I mean, inside information, our boy Chris, there definitely was a couple of ADs watching that maybe are thinking of a program of their own. So maybe even Georgia Tech, shout out to the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful stadium. They had the crowd that or at least maybe everyone came for those two teams possibly, but you could grow your own fan base. It seems like that's very fertile ground. So yeah, it's just great moment for lacrosse, and both teams definitely lived up to the billing.
Yeah, and to go off of two of your points, say first with the big time stars showing up. I mean, you look at the box score, obviously with Magdalene Schaefer with that, but Spanos with a hat trick.
Yes.
Kavanaugh picking up where he left off, on the big stages last year, 4 goals. Faison, I think that was his first or second game back from the national championship game in football, putting up a pair of goals. The big time players made big time plays during this game, and that's awesome to see. And then your other point, Safe, about this, I know it's lacrosse. We talk about growing the game and everything. But, I mean, you get this stage at a nice college stadium. It's not, an MLS stadium. I mean, as much as I chime for MLS stadiums and stuff, it's, not a smaller venue. It's not one of these community parks or, I guess, quote unquote, minor league feels like you're playing at trying to remember the league, the secondary, soccer league stadiums or anything like that. you're playing at a, ACC college football stadium and getting that great of an atmosphere. And I mean, looking at the women's game, just to use an example, look at Clemson, how quickly they've grown as a program. They just beat a top 10 Syracuse team on the road today. Think about the trajectory that Clemson Tigers women's teams had in such a quick amount of time. And I think ADs are looking at that, and they're looking at what they saw on the field too. And look, if there's something brewing here. And I think the atmosphere today only grew to, and credit to the fans too. They're sticking around for that Mercer Drexel game too. It's not like they lost that much of the crowd after Maryland Notre Dame went final. They've been sticking around for the second half of the doubleheader as well. So they might be having something brewing there. And that could be the spark for, we've seen some growth in the Southeast at the, low major level, and it's been mixed. It's worked for programs like High Point, but of course you had, a program like Furman, go to the wayside after COVID. But I mean, this could be a big rocket launcher if you're, an ACC school or a SEC school, or even if you're thinking you don't have to think as big, maybe, a Sun Belt school. You're looking at this and saying, there could be something brewing here.
I think the college campus is a great point. It was a great collegiate sporting event. Like on a college campus. Like I went to the Audi Field thing, and that was awesome. But it was that place is really hard to get to. I had to park, as opposed to public transit. It's not like in DC the way Bobby Dodd is right in Atlanta. I mean, it drops you right in the heart of Atlanta. So, and also the way they did that one, the people bailed out of there. People came from Maryland, Virginia, and they bailed out of there, and they had Duke and Towson playing after. As opposed to Mercer and Drexel. So that kind of tells you, just, gives you an idea. I think being, a great, because Gil says, it felt like a Final Four game. That's what you want out of regular season. I always say the goal for college lacrosse in terms of regular season should be to feel like big college basketball games. That's the goal, is to feel like these kind of the way college basketball games, especially used to feel. They're kind of it's lost some of its luster now, but those kind of showcase, afternoon, Saturday afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock, college basketball games would feel, where it's kind of like an event where everyone's glued to the TV. And sometimes in early season college basketball games, you get, sometimes these, neutral site games, some places, between rivals who might play at Indiana, Kentucky sometimes would play at like Louisville, a geographically kind of equidistant location, things like that. That's always, to me, the goal for lacrosse, is to kind of achieve something approximate to that. And I think the South is, I think it's a really good kind of spot. They did it in California for a time period, and that went well. I know they had some success out there. The crowds are always very good. I think the South is really good because you have college campuses that hopefully you can maybe parlay into teams adding. But also just the weather's good. There's college campuses. It's easy. It's closer travel. The hope for the teams, I think it makes a lot of sense.
And I think and just to chime off too, I think the choice of Georgia Tech worked out even better. I know in the past Kennesaw State's had some events, but I felt like bigger stadium in the middle of the city, bigger campus, parlayed into something even bigger. And I mean, I think, having it at the college campuses helps too. I mean, last year I was at the Notre Dame Cornell game, and smaller venue with LIU by a considerable amount, but I felt like there was a bigger buzz there because it was on a college campus than maybe if they had put it at, in Mitchell Field or at Columbia or something.
Yeah, it all worked. It was awesome. The game, I mean, just what a terrific lacrosse game. I think it got to what me and Safe talked about. We had the debate about scoring this week, scoring kind of being down across the country, and I felt like I think scoring is going to be down. We talked scoring is going to be down. There's a lot of great players who have left the sport. Still some really good players here, but there's not maybe the superstars the big time names. A lot of them are in the PLL now. Your Schellenbergers, O'Neills, Pat Kavanaugh, Chris Gray recently just retired this week. Again from a couple years back. A lot of them. Maryland maybe embodies that more than anybody. They do not have a superstar on offense. And I think Gil mentions this. I do think this is definitely possible. Maryland has gone through an absolute gauntlet up to this point of the season. Adam mentioned it in our chat, and we don't do everyone. We know us. We don't. We kind of avoid the bracketology kind of talk until late March, early April. Maryland could win like 2-3 games the rest of the season, and they're gonna get a first round home game. Like they already have like a top 2 to 3 resume, at this just already, just based on the nature of the teams they've beaten. I mean, it speaks to like the schedule they've played out and what they've done. But I think Notre Dame was mental errors. Yeah, Notre Dame had a couple offsides. There was one, especially the offsides when it was 9-7, I think. The Maryland turned to 10-7. It
was after a Maryland turnover too, I feel, or like a shot clock thing. It was like a important. I thought it was a point where they could have like maybe cut that Maryland lead.
I think Notre Dame did make some more mental errors. I think overall, Maryland, I think, just did a very good job though defensively. I think a lot of Notre Dame's turnovers were largely I think they felt caused though. I think Maryland, Kark did. I think Kark and Cotter. I don't know anyone else. I thought they did a really good job on the call. I enjoyed them today. Kark kept mentioning it, how packed in Maryland's defense was. And Georgetown did something similar. This is really, I think, the way teams are going to defend Notre Dame right now. And it's take away Jake Taylor. This is the primary focus, is take away inside, take away the layups. Because without Dobson, it's a much easier to do. That was last year. You couldn't do that. It was pick your poison. Okay, you take away Jake Taylor. Try and take away the inside. Well, then you're giving up the outside shooting. If Dobson had outside shots, he was going to can them. They had the outside shooting. This year without Dobson, they still have Faison. Faison's a Dodger, more so. They have guys from the outside. Jalen Seymour has a great outside shot, but Maryland did a great job at those shorties stuck to Notre Dame immediately. Like they were on them, just it was like glue. Like I mean, they did not let them get a first step. Like they didn't allow them to have kind of get like any kind of like get up. Again, listen to McCarthy, like it wasn't like don't get ahead of steam. So they get shots off. So I think it really kind of did a great job of the outside shooting options weren't there for him. So Notre Dame kind of played everything in the interior, in the inside. Another part of this was, so we talked, say for me, talk about this, what Notre Dame does so often is they, against Maryland especially, kind of against everybody, Notre Dame wants to dodge from kind of everywhere, especially with Kavanaugh's. Chris Cav likes dodging from, he's not necessarily a strictly behind the goal. Pat Cav is much more of a behind the goal player than Chris is. And I think that made it tougher for them to kind of find some stuff inside. And Schaller did a great job defending him. He's a beast. Shout out Ryan McDonald, who gets a lot of crap for his freshman of the year pick sometimes. He picked Will Schaller as freshman of the year like 2 years ago. Never wrong, just early. Will Schaller's going to be
wrong just early.
Will Schaller's going to be a first team All-American this year. And this gets Vince Stice asks, is this the best Terp defense since 2017? Great question. The 22 defense had Makar and Zapp at pole, which is pretty just crazy 1-2 punch there at pole, and then Ray Hill as the third. And then at shorty, they had Puglisi, Bubba, Jake Higgins, and Alex Smith, Probilski, and Geppert at long pole. That's a lot of good players. There's a lot of those guys playing the PLL. I would say individual talent-wise, that group is probably better. Like there's not a Zaps on this group. Though Schaller he's playing great. Is there even Makar? Schaller might be kind of trying to Makar. There's not Zaps is like Zap apparently was at the game. I think Felix had mentioned it. Like when he came out, apparently the sideline, like when the Maryland bench, fans went crazy. There might be even deeper at shorty. Like they're running like 5 shorties. They might be even deeper there. They might be even deeper at pole because they're running a fourth pole in. Peter Lake, the freshman, is playing. So I think they're deeper even at pole than the 22 group was. But I think there's a cohesiveness and a experience that they're playing with together that's making it really hard to defend them. Because McNaney, with his experience, how long he's been there, I mentioned this, the way they're allowing him it kind of reminds me of the way Rutgers would defend when they had Kirst. It's packing in because it's like, we will give you a 10-yard shot or 12-yard shot for Logan McNaney. He's going to save it. And then they're outletting it the other way. And that's also the way they would defend when they had Nico Amato way back in the day. And those long outlets that McNaney is sitting are really dangerous. They are getting some deadly transition. And Maryland was the more dangerous transition team in this game. Maryland got, 3 or 4 transition goals in this game, especially in the second half, that really made a difference. Some of those, like Gil mentioned, were off Notre Dame mental errors, offsides. But you had the Kelly goal after the Schaller Superman. They had Spanos got one. Urksa got one right off the faceoff. After Chris Cav had the crazy dive goal, which was fantastic. That was we didn't mention that play yet. But Maryland scored right back with Urksa after a faceoff. So this Maryland team is pushing in transition even a lot more. That's something that a lot of Maryland fans have been asking. I've pushed a lot for them. They need to create offense, because if you don't have the explosive offense that this group has had. So to answer the question, is it the best defense has 22? The 22 defense, when they kind of won them the tournament late in that Final Four run, because the offense kind of slowed down the way they played against Princeton and Cornell. But look, to have a 5-game run the way they've had to start the season, the most goals they've given up so far is 10. And they've played Notre Dame, they've played Princeton, they've played Cuse. That's probably, if you had asked people to pick their top 5 offenses to start the season, those 3 would probably be in the top 5. And they've given up a max of 10. And today, look, this game was not terribly different to those other 2 games. A big difference was Notre Dame won 75% of the faceoffs. Will Lynch really kept Notre Dame in this game, and especially the fourth quarter was where Maryland really felt Luke Weirman lost for the first time. I've certainly felt my nerves certainly felt it. I was thinking, I'm like, at 10-7, I'm like, if Luke Weirman's out there, this game is over. But he's not. And so that certainly allowed Notre Dame to make a push. I thought Notre Dame, the things Notre Dame did well differently was they kind of turned Maryland over in the second quarter. Notre Dame played a lot of offense in the first half, a lot of offense, a lot of opportunities, but they couldn't build the lead. And that's where, to get to what Ryan mentioned, we saw the Maryland that third quarter. They came out of the half and just kind of stretched that, or safe. You always mentioned that those third quarter, they get that run. They got 2 goals. Then they got a big juice 7-5, and they just kind of stretch you out a little bit. And they made some big plays. So I think Gil's point is good. I think Notre Dame did look a little underseasoned compared to Maryland. So it'll be interesting to see Notre Dame closer to ACC play. I'm very excited to see them play North Carolina.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. Yeah, I'm curious to see how Notre Dame with a little bit more seasoning is going to be, because I think Maryland has a little bit. I think Maryland's the best team, obviously, in the nation right now, but Maryland's also had about an extra 2 weeks of playing. So I think Notre Dame with a little bit of seasoning come ACC time is going to be very interesting to see, because it feels like they're almost there. They're a little bit off compared to last year, but I mean, last year's team was something else. I think as the season progresses, they might be getting back to that point. So it's good. I would say if we get this rematch in the NCAA tournament, we are going to be in for an absolute whopper.
Yeah, they're not last year's team. I think we've seen that now for sure, which is fun. Like I think they've come back to the pack. Will Lynch is that's a weapon for them. I think he's the best faceoff guy in the country, and that's I think going to help them in a lot of games. The reason I think the Carolina game is interesting is those are the two best faceoff guys in that conference. So that'll be fun to see. Whereas I think he gives Lynch kind of inoculates them a little bit, maybe for some upsets that they might face.
Another very good game. Johns Hopkins 13, Virginia 12, bringing a bit more juice to that rivalry. So Hopkins gets another close victory at Homewood this time. So they rack up another, at the moment, top 20 win. Virginia, probably much better effort than what we saw last week against Ohio State. But they are still under 500 now at 2-3. But a lot of encouraging signs that last week might have been more of an anomaly. It looks like they're heading a bit back in the right direction. But for Hopkins, another nice win onto their resume to get them to 5-1, even though, not to troll or anything, but that is their third one-goal victory against teams that are a combined 3-12. So concerned troll there. But still, Hopkins is 5-1 heading into the rivalry game against Syracuse next week. So Hopkins continues a nice start to their season.
I got everything I wanted at this game. I mean, at the beginning, the palpitations started. As soon as Virginia jumped up, I was like, on the chat, I was like, my God, Lars is going to do it again. And I remember thinking in the pod, Jake, that I was like, I was wary a little bit, but I was like, I feel like this, Hopkins is a good team, like a better team, and just Virginia was not, maybe going to have the typical Virginia season. And then, literally 5 minutes in the game, I was like, you big dummy. This is like Virginia, and they still got horses, and that's what it shows. Like maybe they need a little bit of marinating or seasoning for the offense to really gel. Hasn't played to the caliber that people kind of expect. They still need to. But I was like, at the end, Maryland, the Virginia is kind of like Maryland and Notre Dame, in that they got the athletes and they kind of were imposing that will. Like that ride, it started to give me a little bit of that Georgetown, Virginia, because it's the intensity that Virginia was bringing to the ride. I was like, I thought Hopkins was like up to the level, but a couple of them of those clears were just like baffling to me. We were like, felt like there was like 4 guys on one. I was like, there's got to be somebody open. We don't need to just like take it on a hero clear. But what I wanted to see, like I got, Hopkins responded, and the offense and its response, obviously happy, like over the moon about, but holding Virginia scoreless for 20 minutes after they jumped out to that 9, I was like, that's what really, like, I thought dialed it in, and that this is like, maybe a better team than last year's Hopkins team. Like they had the options on offense when Melendez went down. Like, I was like concerned. I was like, maybe, it's just not going to be that day for Hopkins, but like they're able to find other people to score. I felt like, took their opportunities where they had it in terms of transition, and then just locking it down and like just holding them like scoreless for that long period of time. Hopkins could have definitely like extended the lead even further, so that that Virginia charge at the end, wouldn't have been as close. But it's just like, this is the nature of this rivalry. Like it really is. But you noted in the tweet before that, like, this is going to be a proud Virginia program, and they responded that way. They kind of got a little bit of embarrassed by Ohio State. The Richmond loss probably, also was a surprise to the players in the program. And, I should have like really expected, like, this would have been the response to, that we were going to get on Saturday. But, they held on for the win, and at least Jason, held on for the win. And I, kind of like really saw some growth from the everyone out there for stout, being able to respond. Even though it may not been the greatest day, he definitely made a few saves out there that were obviously crucial for a 1-goal game. And the defense, maybe a little bit even. Q was taking your point, Jake, that Hopkins was getting a little bit slide happy, maybe a little too over aggressive, and maybe that was just like the game plan for this one, and able to hold on and keep get the W. But there's obviously a lot of things to learn from this game. I'm sure we'll have a good time, in the film room later on. But this is kind of what you want if you're a Jays fan. Yeah, you get punched in the mouth with a team like Virginia that kind of plays right up to that edge in terms of intensity and in the clearing game. Hopkins never wilted, and I was kind of really happy to see that for especially with a team like Virginia. Even when they're at their strongest, they're still a threat in terms of on any Saturday. So Lars wasn't able to pull it off. He definitely had me scared a little bit at the beginning. I was like, it's going to be just another Lars Tiffany special. But yeah, Hop definitely responded the way that you would think for a program that's in the top 10. And Virginia, that's why it wasn't ready to just dump them out of the top 20 last week in my poll. I was I still thought there's enough players on that roster that they're going to be able to figure it out, and they almost had one. It still took away a top 10 road win against a better rival. So this is what fans expect, and kind of like what we were talking about the Maryland Notre Dame game. The scene was set for a game like this. Nearly, I think 3,500 the final tally for the box score. In terms of attendance,
hold it.
Yeah, 3,400. Yeah, we were saying it was it's going to be a beautiful day.
Is the Hopkins Virginia rivalry back?
It's it's definitely. I mean, the Final Four was we were kind of really, or not Final Four. Last year's quarter game to get to the Final Four was. If anyone had any questions whether or not it was back, I think that answered it.
It's good. This felt like we talked about. This felt very Hopkins Virginia. As the crowd back and forth. This year's game, last year's game, the quarterfinal game between. Yeah, I was watching. I'm like, this is what I remember when I think of Hopkins Virginia. When I think of Hopkins Virginia, watching Hopkins Virginia games growing up, this is what I think of.
Absolutely. Yeah, but what I'm saying, the scene was ready for a game like this, and similar to the Maryland Notre Dame game, you have two premier names in the game, playing at a high level, big plays. A little bit sloppy at times, I thought, especially for Virginia. They were able to kind of contain Hopkins in certain aspects, and from being able to do what they like to do, but they just weren't able to keep possession of the ball when they're crossing back into the offensive end, and it felt like a little more sloppy than normal. And it was maybe I think that's going to be the thing this year, kind of skim first two seasons Lars had in Virginia vibes. So maybe they'll turn it around, but it was pretty happy in terms of Hopkins being able to match Virginia's intensity. I thought they kind of overwhelmed them a little bit at the beginning, but maybe kind of what we've kind of seen with this Jays team, a little bit of a slow start at times, but being able to respond the way that they did, it's definitely a great sign of things to come. I just rather it not keep going down early as they have the last couple of weeks. It's just, I think that may end up catching them later on. But this is a huge rivalry for Hopkins. The 99th time they played, they have a cup for this match. So it's happy to see that the level of play matched the history and pageantry of this series.
Safe, we got a question from Brian Powell. He was wondering what you thought of Stout's season so far. Also mentioned UVA's defense. So I'm about, absolutely, they contest every ground ball on the rack after minutes. What have you thought of Stout's season?
I'm happy to have with him for sure. Little bit of slow. I mean, maybe that's just these last couple of weeks, but going down against North Carolina early, kind of got down, and in a hole early against Virginia here. Like, kind of concerned about that, but like I said, I'm the way he responds. I like to, I love that. Getting being faced with adversity and like kind of rising above that is like kind of what you look for in like a goalkeeper, or pretty much any lacrosse player. So that's I'm happy with it. Probably, I think maybe at times the aggressiveness of the Hopkins D kind of maybe leaves them exposed. So it's like, because if you're switching all the time, there's going to be plenty of opportunities where you're going to get that one extra pass, and you're going to have a guy with a really great, look at the cage and may have bury it. But that's Milliman, and Kessler serves like game plan in terms of the defense. So I can't put that all on him. But I'm like I said, I'm happy. We're 5-1. I feel like he's going to be going to continue to like grow, and this like maybe the familiarity as they like continue playing on. Like maybe we'll see that less slow starts, fewer slow starts that are coming out of him. But for the most part, I'm happy with what I have seen out of Stout, and if anything, like there's just more of a larger defensive scheme, not questioning, but you can always make things better. So that I wouldn't pin a hole on him. So that's my main thing. I like Stout a lot. I'm happy he's there. I'm not like, I never feel like he's the weak link in there. And like I said, it's more, maybe the scheming, like is giving opponents opportunities that good looks. And, but yeah, like I said, as long as we respond and the way they have been, I'm happy with what I've seen on Stout.
Yeah, I think he's streaky. I mean, it's kind of always been streaky. He was like that at Loyola. He's a good goalie. I don't know if he's an All-American. So I think that's kind of just the nature of it. I think you'll get streaky games from him. I think at times he's great. At times he's, he can run hot and cold. That's, to me, would sometimes give him a hook. I think, that you'd see that. But I think he has been good. I think Hopkins, I think you saw this in this game. Like when Hopkins made Virginia beat them defensively, it became a lot harder for Virginia. They were sliding to guys there was just no need to slide to. I think there were definitely positive signs for Virginia in this game. I thought, to kind of Brian's point here, I thought Virginia's defense played pretty well overall. Hopkins, similar story, Logan Callahan. They should tell him like every faceoffs in the second half, because I mean he's a guy who like slow starts but grows into the game. I think Virginia's, considering the amount of defense they had to play, I thought they played really well. They made Hopkins win a lot of matchups, and Hopkins certainly did kind of get there in the later in the game. Hunter Chevette had a great game, 5 goals, considering Melendez went down. And Hopkins found a way to manufacture offense and go on a big run. They got the big run that was allowed to allow them to separate and win the game. But overall, I thought Virginia's defense, they certainly have had issues, with some of their slide packages and things like that in the first couple weeks of the season. This was their best game, I thought, overall, considering the level of competition. Offensively, that attack unit is really good. Millen, Colsey, Sunderland. Colsey and Sunderland have really improved a lot over the last over the off season where they've been. Millen is, considering again where he was really good last year. I think he's continuing to get better, and he's doing as best he can. Kind of taking over the role from Schellenberger, which is an impossible task. So I thought Virginia overall played a solid game on the road at Homewood against a good Hopkins team. That's going to be tough to beat. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They don't beat themselves. They're solid in all areas. I think there's definitely positives you can kind of take. They've just got it's tough. We saw it again. A lot of their production came from that attack. The midfield, it's not a lot there, and that's when Hopkins really buckled down and said, "All right, we're not going to kind of manufacture some of this offense. We're going to force these matchups to be won." And especially because this time they really focused on Smith on Millen, and that made it even tougher because it was they didn't have that the real kind of go-to with the trigger man from And from X, that's when you saw that long scoring drought. So it's just not they're really having to lean. They talked about this on the broadcast, Quentin Dixon. They really having to lean into a lot more scripted and set plays offensively with Cassis as opposed to some of the more, improvisation you might have saw with Kerwin. And even then, a lot of that honestly just came off of the fact they had better talent. They could just kind of we're going to run by you. Now they don't have. Virginia has talent, but they don't have. There's not a lot of game breakers on this Cavs team. There's good players. It's similar to I think what you saw with Maryland the last couple of years. There's good players everywhere, but there's not aside from kind of Ware and some of those big pulls on the back end. There's not a lot of stars, and even honestly, I'll say, Steve, you mentioned the ride. What kind of shocks me is the ride at times feels to really lack punch. Like Hopkins, like early on, the ride they pushed Hopkins, and it felt like, ooh, this kind of looks a little bit like what it did last year. And then it felt like Hopkins just had to like remind themselves, no, like this is fine, like we can handle this.
They figured it out, yeah.
And then and then after that, it was like that was it. Like Virginia just didn't really have much for it. And it's not that it's executed badly necessarily. It's just that the Virginia ride, the way they do it to you, I mean, they out athlete you. They're physical, they're tough,
athleticism and aggressiveness.
Yeah, and it was like Hopkins just like, nope, like they just ran through them, they ran by them, and I don't think Virginia has. I don't know if they have the horses in the back. I think this was encouraging because I think it was pride, and I think they figured a lot out in terms of their systems that we were looking for. I think the question is, we saw was like, well, did they have the horses? And I think they'll grab some wins. The question is, you're 2-3. Can you grab enough? Because you got to grab several, and it's going to be. We talked about it. It's going to be a gauntlet now. This was a chance to grab one. You got Maryland coming to Clocker in 2 weeks. That's going to be a big one. That's good. That's going to be a big opportunity right there. You're in counting now. Like we got to get some of these. We got to grab some of these. We're 2-3. We need to grab some big. They'll have bites at the apple, but that's the position you're in when you're 2-3. And when you lost to Richmond and Ohio State too, it's that you don't really have any wins. I guess the Colgate one. I guess that's fair. The Colgate one they do have. Yeah.
All right. We also we get a time check real quick.
We gotta get scooting. 18 minutes.
All right, so let's get into last night's first leg of the US1 Tobacco Road Challenge. Princeton 15, Duke 14, also a very entertaining game. A lot of entertaining games this weekend, and this one was a lot of fun to watch too. A lot of back and forth in this one, but the Tigers hang on to win 15-14. And don't look now, but Princeton's got put together a nice little string here already on their resume. Road wins against Penn and Duke for their resume early on in the season. So that's good news for them. And good news for Duke, even though that is their first loss of the season. That was probably the best game they've played so far this season as well. So that might bode well as they head to the back end of their non-con schedule and might help them, give them a boost in their game against Penn tomorrow. So nice, fun, hard-fought game there in Durham. What are our thoughts on this one?
Little concerned with Duke's half-court offense. The 6-on-6. Like, thought a lot of the production came out of kind of transition opportunities, which we got to cash in on. And also, scored a little bit more flattering to Duke than I thought they played. Thought Duke, had a good thing going with the face-off, but Princeton kept like stepping on rakes. It seemed that early on, I was like, I felt like Princeton had like cut on the turnovers, maybe got like an occasional face off every now and then that they would be up like, by multiple goals and kind of comfortable. But, once they jumped out to that, 5-2 lead, I kind of felt like Princeton would be able to hang on, but kind of just kept Duke in the game. Like I said, it seemed to capitalize on all the opportunities where, not 6-on-6, but like, I think they still probably got a chance to make some noise and potentially make it out of the ACC and maybe in the top 3. But definitely, at least on the Duke side, it was like great to see them actually, have some offense output. But I thought it kind of masked some issues for them. For Princeton, I was like, this is kind of what I would like to see. The offense, like, really, put the ball in the net. I felt like, the defense that was bailed out a lot by just having a great day in the net for Princeton. Jake, I know your tweet got a lot of positive attention about Croddick having such a great performance, just indicative of the program and Madeline's, like, what he's been able to do with goalies out there.
Immediately aged poorly.
Well, I mean, like,
it aged poorly last night because he saved 26%.
For sure, but like I thought early on he actually did have when there was a couple of saves that were like actually
he played well. He played well in the first quarter, and then he
had a terrible. But I think again it goes back to my point. A lot of it felt like not necessarily man up, but like transition, like the settled defense weren't.
No, Duke half court offense like scored goals. Like Duke scored goals last night. Like they had plenty of chance. Like they played well offensively. Like both offenses played well.
Definitely.
I thought Princeton did a good job denying Duke transition. And Princeton got good transition opportunities themselves. Duke did have a moment in, I would say, there was that stretch in the middle of the third, late fourth quarter where they plugged out, a lot. And that's where, when your opponent's having a cold. I mean, look, I think Croddick's a good goalie. I mean, I think he's gonna have a good season. But like my tweet did poorly, only saved like 27% of the night. It was the first poor game he's had. I mean, Duke's offense, like both offenses had, Princeton scores 15 goals on 38 possessions. That's 40%. Duke scores 14 goals on 38 possessions. That's 37%. I mean, both teams' offenses had terrific games. Duke shot 41% for the game. Princeton shot 38%. I mean, both teams, overall, for what you have, Duke only 12 turnovers, only 2 failed clears. I think you kind of feel maybe a little bummed. Not coming away for the win in a game where you shoot 41%, you have 56% face-offs. That's a game I think you do want to win. Princeton really did great on ground balls in this game. Princeton, like those poles vacuum up ground balls. They hoover up ground balls everywhere. Princeton won this game in the middle of the field. That was the difference. Princeton really in the middle of the field. Duke in the half court was this is the best game Duke's played in that area. And I think Duke, you saw the makings of the team. I think you can tell why Dino likes this team so much. They play hard. I think there's a real element of a team that's going to try really hard. And when that's maybe, I don't want to say Duke hasn't tried hard in recent years, but there's been moments where the effort has seemed, or we've seen they play up and down to the level of the competition. You know, there's games where like you see them, it's like what has happened? What's happening here? Like they just, you know, they'll be great one week and the next week it's like what's going on? I don't think you'll have anything to question about with this team in regards to that. I think they're going to play really hard every week, and I think you're going to get a team that's going to squeeze a lot out of themselves. I think he's going to have a lot of fun coaching them. But I think you saw Princeton really, in terms of this was the Princeton team we've come to expect from Madeline, in terms of their physicality. Was it Jackson Green? I think they had the jacked up short stick with the goal, and then again
he's great. I like Green.
Yeah. He's really good. Carson Kramer had a couple goals. Like their shorties looked really good. Princeton's really good. They were really good against Maryland. Like we saw Maryland today, the Maryland team that scored all these goals in transition. They didn't do that against Princeton. But Princeton did a really good job denying Maryland. Maryland was better. You can maybe argue 6-on-6 against Princeton. But Princeton really denied Maryland a lot of transition that they got against Notre Dame today. Princeton was very good in the middle of the field against Duke. And that's kind of where they won the game, in spite of the fact that they didn't get a bunch of saves. And their Princeton's offense was very good too. I mean, like McAsee had 4 goals. They got a bunch of production. They had 10 different goal scorers, but that was watching Princeton. This was the kind of team we saw. It felt like the team we saw in 2020, the team that they were building toward in 2022, that then promptly got tore down because guys got hurt and then they all transferred to somewhere else. And now it feels like it's kind of building back up to that again. I think there are some questions with their defense a little bit. How much of their defense the first couple weeks got maybe covered up by the fact their goalie played it feels like we haven't got an accurate representation yet. Like the first couple weeks, their goalie plays incredibly well, and then the goalie plays very bad. So it's like, where do they filter out quite defensively? But I was impressed. I think both teams came away with something positive here overall. Duke got a nice – Ben Johnson hit some big shots on the outside. Princeton got a road win again. They got two top 10 road wins. Can't complain about that. Even if they could, you know – I mean, you don't want to lose by 10 to Carolina. I don't think they will. But even if they lose to Carolina, like we talked about it, they came away exactly how you wanted out of this gauntlet stretch to start the year.
Yeah, so the Tigers 2-1, one more game left on the gauntlet, being tomorrow, being Carolina, which leads us to what Carolina did last night. And I think outside of Maryland, the team that looks the most impressive at this early stage of the season. I will say also, though, Princeton, their gauntlet still have Cornell and Harvard this month as well, so they're not out of the woods yet after this weekend. But yes, tomorrow they get to set up a date with North Carolina. And boy, UNC put on a show yesterday, 16-8 victory over Penn. And worth noting, important for tomorrow when we get to our Sunday preview after we go around the scoreboard, they were able to sit out a lot of guys in the fourth quarter, so they're going to be well rested and fresh for that game, whereas Princeton had to play to the final buzzer. But in terms of last night's game, just an absolutely dominating showing out of the Tar Heels. And as I said, probably outside of Maryland, the most, second most impressive looking team to start this season as they poured on for another big victory. So UNC, I mean, if they can do the same thing they did last night tomorrow, they might even leapfrog the Fighting Irish the way that they've been looking.
Oh, I think they'll definitely do that. I think the question is, do they leapfrog Cornell, depending if the Big Red one for number 2? I think that's the question.
I think I make them number 2 if they win tomorrow. This is kind of what we said on the show, Jake. I was like, I like Penn and all that. I just like this Carolina team. What they did to Hopkins, I was like, yeah. Again, sounds glib, but like if you hold or limit young Petro and Duffy, you have a good shot. I mean, that's showing to be much more difficult than just being able to say that. So Penn, you remember we were talking, I was like, I think Penn, it's a, top 10 caliber team, but I was like, I don't think they have the offense to keep up, and I don't think the defense is going to. If Hop had trouble with these two kids, like I didn't know Penn was going to be able to do much better. And I thought once they got behind like 3 or 4 goals, and
those two didn't even do much.
I guess maybe that doesn't show that they're much more deep than we expected. So
that could be scary.
Sure, go ahead.
No, I said that could be scary if that's the case.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like that. If you're looking at this Carolina team, I know there can be examples where the hype was still legitimate. There were good. Brescia had some really good regular season teams that may have flamed out in the tournament, but there was some substance to the hype, in terms of they're dropping it felt like 13-2 seasons, kind of pretty routinely, especially in the early part of Brescia's era. But this one maybe a little bit different. The defense is Big Petra. It seems to be having a bit of resurgence defensively. They've done a great job in being able to keep teams down. The single digits aside from the Hopkins game. And with this offense is now going to be more than just young Petro and Duffy. Yeah, Ryan, I hear you, man. This is really going to be a potentially super scary team. Again, this Princeton game, on short rest, but if you were able to rest half your big stars after essentially the midway through the third quarter, that's going to help a lot. Especially I felt like that Duke game for Princeton, was wire to wire. So we may have some fatigue also as a factor, but. Yeah, I really think we should be starting to lean in on some of this North Carolina hype, because I think maybe it's there's some real substance to it. So this is really starting to be an attractive dark horse Final Four pick.
Dark horse, they're ranked in the top 5.
Right, and then at the beginning of the season, would you?
Yeah, from the beginning of the year, though.
plus.
Well, yeah, but
700. No, that's Ohio State. Ohio State was plus 7,500, but they were definitely plus 4,000 at the beginning of the year, and they're I mean, if they win tomorrow, they sweep the Penn and Princeton. You can make a case for top 2. I think you can make a real case for number 2 team in the country. They beat Hopkins.
You went with the other one, safe Ohio State. You went with the other.
I was looking a little bit dodgy earlier today.
$10 on both of them when they were at their highest. So yeah, I'm loving this. Everything's fine for both teams. But you look. If we keep talking about resumes, they now this Hopkins one looks better and better. They have the potential to get another big win with Princeton, and the Penn win.
It can't be a dark. Look, there's no. That's the beauty of this season. There's no. It's wide open. Anybody's potential favorite. I mean, Maryland
wide open, which defaults to Maryland at number 1.
Yeah, but I mean, look, they were. I forget where they were ranked, but I mean, that was what they had 1 preseason All-American. So that's kind of the. Fun of it. But yeah, I mean, Carolina, look, they were, yeah, you're right. They were 16th and 17th, and they were 16th in our poll, 17th in the media poll to start the year. They've climbed rapidly in very fast. I mean, yeah, they've climbed rapidly. They could be number 2. They certainly they could be as high as they could be number 2. When we spread that worst, they're gonna. I mean, if they lose, they're gonna be in the top 5.
Yeah, they'll probably just get Princeton over them, but I think they've got enough of a resume where you can put the edge over them over Army.
They look like a top 5 team in the country. You watch them play. There's the hole to pick with them is the depth of scoring, and that was answered in this game. Now, long term, you still want to see it play out. But Duffy had 1 goal and Petro had 3 goals here. That's 6 less goals than it was against Hopkins, and they still blew the doors off. And this game was over. This game was over before it started.
Yeah, it was 10-3 at half. Like
it was 7. It was 6-1 after the first quarter. This was a lot for.
They blew the doors off of Penn. Like just
Wambach 15 to 20 faceoffs. That's what I was mentioning. I really want to see him against Notre Dame. I think they have the faceoff group. Gianfrancaro's been good, but doesn't feel like he hasn't had to he hasn't had to save a game for them yet. But he hasn't been excellent. They racked up a lot of turnovers in this game. That a lot of just came in the second half. We'll see them against maybe of course. Look, remember we talked about they suffered the injury. Peter Tillman, their number 1 long pole, hasn't really hurt them yet. It's kind of Quint called like the no-name defense. A lot of just different faces, not real heralded, are playing really well on the back end for them. We'll see if that becomes a factor. But if there's a year to have a defense that's better than the sum of its parts, it might be this year. In the ACC, how many you're not defending Connor Schellenberger, Brennan O'Neill, and Pat Cavanaugh. There's Chris Cavanaugh. After that, it's not like you have to you can trust a lot of different guys in some of those matchups and feel okay, I think. You could argue the best attackman in the ACC is on their team. So, Chris Cav is the other, it's the other argument. That's certainly tough, but I think so. No, they've played like a top 5 team so far.
All right, so let's go around the scoreboard real quick, and then we'll have a little preview and extra time for tomorrow's games because in addition to those ACC Ivy League Challenge games, there's also another interesting Ivy League non-con game. But last night, too, Air Force 21, Quinnipiac 8. Jacksonville beat St. John's 11-10 in overtime. Dartmouth 14-9 over Vermont in the Green Mountain Derby. Interesting one in PA. Lehigh 10, Villanova 7.
Extra time. We are in.
All righty. But yes, Lehigh with their first victory of the year over a Villanova team that was ranked top 20 just a little bit ago. Towson get their first win of the season, 17-10 over UMBC. Delaware 11-6 over High Point. Denver starts off sluggish, but then pours it on in the second half, 18-5 over Marist. In today's action, number 5 Army starts Patriot League play with a 15-5 win over Lafayette. Speaking of which, opening day in the Patriot League gives us our first Patriot League upset. Navy 13-9 victory over BU, and they were up big over BU. A little bit of a comeback for the Terriers in the fourth quarter, but the midshipmen looked quite impressive in their conference opener. 13-9 win there.
I like this Navy. I like this Navy team. I think their Dan Daly in goals really strong. Zach Hayashi at the faceoff dot. That's a potent combo that can make them tough to score against. But their offense, Ken Brochart coming over as the offensive coordinator after he didn't get the High Point coaching job. The pieces are similar to last year, but the ball movement's much better. Last year, the offense, if they hired Cottle late to replace Phipps, it's just very. What's the phrase Quint always uses? Safe, minimally invasive. That's kind of how it felt. It was just the ball would kind of spin around. It was guys kind of taking turn to dodge. I like that they move the ball really well. They kind of find the skip pass, do a great job of finding good looks, step down shots, open guys on the backside, through ball movement. And Jack Flaherty, a midfielder, he's playing really well for them. So I like this Navy team in the Patriot League. I think they're going to be a tough out. You look at what's going to take to beat Army potentially. I mean, that game is always going to be you throw the record books out. You never know what you're going to get in that one, but it's going to take a good face-off guy because of what they have with Coletti. You're going to need a good goalie. There you go. Granted, that game's always the The
The bizarre one where the road team usually
road
wins.
team usually does better, kind of like Hopkins and Maryland. I think that like you're gonna need a good face-off guy against Colletti to beat Army. You're gonna need a good goalie with how Army's punch offensively. So if they can have if they can improve offensively, I think Navy's gonna have something to say in the Patriot League this year, along with another team that we'll mention here in a moment.
Okay, continuing running down. Georgetown 13-8 win over Brown. The Ohio State beats Bryant 7-5. So Safe's happy about that. In a game that for most of the time looked like both teams were getting ready for looking more forward to the tailgate for the Stadium Series game than scoring goals. But in the end, Ohio State wins that. Elsewhere in Patriot League play, Colgate, another impressive showing. 18-6 win over Loyola. Loyola does fall to 0-5 now, which is... But Colgate looking really, really sharp to start their season. Fairfield now up to 5-0 with a 15-7 win over Providence. Harvard go after their big win over Syracuse. Does not have a letdown the week after. 20-16 win over Marquette. Stony Brook 12-7 victory over Manhattan. Monmouth wins the Battle of the M's over Mount St. Mary's 11-10. Penn State goes to New Haven and beats Yale 15-9. I know you guys wanted to touch upon this one a bit, but that Yale defensive situation, it is somehow still getting worse.
This is Yale is the everything. Yale officially, we can stamp it. The dreaded bad situation, capital B, capital S label can apply in New Haven. This is bad. This is not good. No bueno. Yale is 0-3. Their next 3 games are, Ryan, what are their next 3 games?
Denver, at Harvard, Cornell.
Yale was down 3-0 in this game. They were never in this game at all. This game was a laugher. It was over. Yale lost at home to Army 14-3. So they've lost their last 2 games at home by a total of 17 goals. They lost on the road to Villanova by 2 goals. A Villanova team that's lost its other 3 games by a total of 24 goals. So Villanova lost to Penn State by 10, beat Yale by 2, lost to Colgate by 11, and Lehigh by 3. That's Yale's season so far. They couldn't score goals against Army. Struggled to score against Penn State. Listen, Penn State's a good defense. Army's got a defense, but Chris Lyons and Leo Johnson look like 2 guys who had season-long injuries they suffered last year. They're coming back from. They lost Matt Brandow. The defense is there's nothing left to say about the Yale defense. Yale doesn't know how to play defense. I think that's it. I think it's kind of at the point at which to say Andy Shea doesn't know how to coach defense in the shot clock era. They haven't had a good defense in the shot clock era. Shot clock came in 2019. Yale's best defense in the shot clock era is ranked 33rd in adjusted defensive efficiency. They don't know how to slide. They don't look like they know how to rotate off like when guys slide. Not that they don't like not they don't do it well. They don't look like they know how to do it. This is all stuff we've talked about numerous times with them. They don't do rudimentary, basic, fundamental defense well. It's everything with them is bad. So, and they've got, they got Ivy League play. Do I think? Look, again, it's a proud program. Do I think they'll turn things around to a degree? Probably, but it's bad. Really
It's a rough stretch ahead.
Penn State, they got Cornell next week. I think that's going to be a humdinger. Because
Tambroni balls always deliver too. So
Tambroni always delivers. Penn State. I've tweeted this out. Penn State freshman Hunter Aquino. He's got 18 points in 5 games. This kid is like one of the 4 or 5 best offensive players Tams has recruited. I know that might seem like whoa, because he's producing with. I'm not saying he's not like Amen O'Keefe, but after that, like that kid is a stud. And he's gonna go because the Penn State team, the most goals they've given up was 11 to Princeton in the bubble. Other than that, they gave up 9 to Colgate, 5 to Nova, 7 to Navy, 9 to Yale. They're placing that Princeton offense, they're going to place that Cornell offense. Alex Ross is a really great long pole. Probably going up against CJ Kurse. Parham's really good. Frasine in goal. That Cornell offense against Penn State defense is going to be strength on strength. Penn State's offense is playing well. I think that's going to be a fantastic game next week in Ithaca. Can't wait.
All right. Back to the scoreboard. Sacred Heart continues their nice start to the season, too. They beat Wagner 20-6. UMass with a comeback win over Albany 10-9 in the Berkshire Connector Derby. Hofstra 15-5 win over Binghamton and Hempstead. Had a double OT game in Worcester as Holy Cross beats Bucknell 11-10 to open up Patriot League play.
First conference win in 4 years.
There we go.
Double OT, yeah.
That's big. Good
Cleveland State 11-8 over Canisius. Lemoyne 10-9 victory over St. Bonaventure in DeWitt. It's technically Syracuse, but it's right on the DeWitt border. But Lemoyne beats St. Bonaventure 10-9. This is a good way to see if Adam's in the chat right now. St. Joseph's 11, Rutgers 5. Guess Adam's not in the chat with us right now, because otherwise we would have gotten a comment that we may or may not be fit to air. LIU beats Bellarmine 15-9. Robert Morris, impressive 17-7 victory over Hobart today. Syracuse bounces back with a 15-5 win over Utah, though they did have a scoreless third quarter.
Yes.
Their first. What's up?
He found something to complain about. We didn't get a rant.
No, but otherwise they were looking. Their defense was looking very good today. So Q's 15-5 over Utah, bounces back just in the nick of time before the big Hopkins game next week. And the second game there in Atlanta, Drexel puts a drubbing on Mercer 21-6. Now, usually this is about the time where we say goodbye, but there's quite a lot of big games, headlined by, of course, Princeton, UNC, and Penn Duke, but also have a sneaky good one with Cornell at Richmond. So a lot to discuss for tomorrow's game. So what are we looking at? As I said before, going to be interesting to see with Carolina able to sit out some guys in the fourth quarter. Princeton having to play to the final horn and had the later start time for what it's worth too. And then the other game, Duke-Penn always gets a bit weird. Quakers seem to find ways against the Devils.
They've won. Penn's won, I think, 2 of the last 3 in this series, at least since COVID. I think they won 1 or 2 before it as well. Yeah. Listen, I like having games on Sunday to watch, especially a nice, helping of games on Sunday. Carolina Princeton starts at 11. That's cool. Carolina Duke Penn starts 1. Spread out.
Nice spread out.
I like that. Ryan, if the people have been liking this video, what should they do?
They should be smashing that like button and that subscribe button. Possibly leave a comment after this goes final, so that way we have that there. We've had people comment on rewatching the streams and stuff.
Yeah.
Lots to like. I also like that Cornell-Richmond game, though, too. I think that has some potential to be some banger lacrosse, especially after Richmond had pulled off that big upset against Virginia. They've situated themselves pretty nicely, and if they can knock off Cornell, they're going to be a top 10 team.
It's going to need to be the defense. This is where we're going to see Cornell.
Yeah, this is going to be kind of the first big test for Cornell. We're finally going to get to see a bit of what they're made of.
I think Richmond, can they score? I think that's because it doesn't. I don't know, that Cornell offense. Are you really going to? You're not going to shut down Cornell's offense. Or like, what are you? What are you going to hold CJ Kirsch to like 3 goals? I mean, I don't know. I think Richmond, you need to score. And they did it against Virginia. They were able to. Maryland in the half court, we saw them against Maryland half court offense really struggle. Now, granted, look, we've seen 5 teams against Maryland now play half court offense, and not many teams have a lot of success. We saw the Virginia game was more sped up, more of a kind of track meet, and they had more success there. Cornell's not generally a team that's going to do the same Virginia's going to do. They're not going to kind of force a track meet, I would say. Can Richmond force Cornell into a track meet? I don't know. It feels now Richmond, I think, does have if Cornell this is where I think again is another sort of learning game where we learned a lot about Cornell. We learned some about the Denver game last week. They blew them out. Where is Cornell's defense at? Because if Cornell does have some of the issues they had last year with communication on defense, poor slides, things like that, Richmond, they do have a nice. They move the ball. They have great interior presence with Little John, Merklinger, guys like that. I think they'll be able to take advantage. Richmond does a good job of taking advantage of your mistakes on offense. So if Cornell gives them opportunities, I think they'll be able to do it. That's the question. That's what they did against Virginia. I think but I don't know if Cornell's going to make this game a track meet the way Virginia did and kind of bring some of the opportunities to Richmond. I think Richmond's going to have to make some stuff happen more 6-on-6. That didn't happen against Maryland. I don't think look, they've had a lot more games since then, but we also saw them last week against Lehigh. And they had a long scoreless drought in that game, didn't they? They won like 9-8. So
minus 12 in possession. They got lost 75% of the faceoffs.
Yeah, Chinoy's been out for a while, hasn't he? Their faceoff guy.
I actually thought that was a testament to like their ability to be able to pull one out in terms of
for sure. Yeah.
I'm really impressed with Richmond's defense here. I think 14th or 15th in adjusted defensive efficiency. And honestly, but for the Maryland game, everything else has been like lights out. Robert Morris is Robert Morris, but they helped Virginia, in check. And like I said, that Lehigh game's definitely an ugly rock fight, but especially losing nearly 75% of the face-offs. But I'm with you, Jake. I think defensively, like that, they have what it needs to like maybe give Cornell probably the most difficult defense that they've maybe faced this season so far. But will they be able to just put up the points that you're going to need to like? Because Hobart for a small period of time, like did similarly, and then like Cornell just exploded. They just dropped like 8 goals. Like Emma's like, what are you gonna do? But you know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like containing them as much as you can. But if they do get a little bit of an opening, they can really break it open. So that's kind of why I went with Cornell here. I was like, Richmond's a good team, and maybe they are making that jump that we've been talking about. Like when with the 8-10 make that leap, but I think this Cornell game is going to be a little bit too much of a bear. But they still got a couple of bites at the apple with Duke and Georgetown to get quality wins that be kind of impressive. At the end of the regular season, their losses are just to Maryland and Cornell. Like I don't know if that'll give them at large legitimate hopes, but they'll be right on the table if for some reason they don't win the A10 championship. If they're able to pretty much just keep it just to Maryland, Cornell, and maybe get to the A10 championship and lose. Like I think there's a chance for them to maybe make it, but. Yeah, this is a great opportunity we keep talking about. If they're able to surprise and take down Cornell, I don't know if they'll be able to write their own ticket because there's still some games out there that you don't want to lose, but they'll be in a great position if they can get another chip chip in their pile by getting a win over Cornell.
Yeah, I picked Richmond just see if I could snatch one and pick them, but I don't like their odds. It just doesn't feel like a good matchup for them, especially with the face-off injury trauma. Yeah, then don't think it's their kind of game. But maybe big if they could.
Game we're looking forward to watching the most tomorrow.
Oh, Caroline Princeton.
Caroline Princeton, man.
Could be some explosions in that.
Yeah,
that's some real offensive firepower. Like two
first
teams
18 wins
playing real well. Like a lot of narratives at play for all of us. This weekend, especially you guys are doing well with your Cornell narrative. Princeton can pop off a win against North Carolina.
Oh man. They'd be set.
Princeton won
2 ACC wins and a Big Ten win all on the road.
It's going to be hard to do this poll this year in terms of usually it's been like after 8 or 12 or whatever. Like even the top 5 is going to be crowded with
it's
what order are you going to put them in? Like
it's like the old years. Where doing a poll actually was required effort. And the last 3 or 4 years, you could probably ask ChatGPT to do the poll for you. It's just like, all right, Notre Dame or Maryland is has like 1 loss, and then a couple ACC teams have.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Penn State, Hopkins are good. Like just there you go. Here you go. The last 3 or 4 years, the poll is just Notre Dame or Maryland's 1 or 2, Virginia, Duke are in there, Penn State or Hopkins. Boom, there you go. That's the top 7. Throw in Cornell. Cornell's in there too, and then Princeton comes back around at the end of the year.
Yeah, Princeton falls off a bit, but then we'll come back to them when they're on a hot streak in April.
It's it's difficult. I think
a Patriot League team will make it. Will be there
Army,
for most of the season, and then April comes, and then
Army's high for 3 months, and then I think. What's the line? What's the line on this game?
Ryan, maybe I can't see Jersey games.
I don't have. I'm not on the betting site that actually lets you bet on NCAA lacrosse. I know you can't look it up in Jersey, but
okay, so I'll look it up. So I will. Here's what I'll say. I like Princeton. I like Princeton a lot. Why don't you let
us guess if you find it?
Oh, there we go. Oh, good game. Okay, that's good. I like this. I love a good game. All right, go ahead, fellas. Get your guess in.
I'm going to go Carolina minus 2.5.
That's what I was thinking. Carolina 2.5.
My God, you guys should go to Vegas.
Is this right on?
Carolina 2.5.
Minus 2.5.
Oh, nice.
All right. In the and if you go to Massey, like the computer ratings, it is Carolina 12-11 over Princeton. I would take anything.
I guess it's a matter of who's gassed more, the offenses or the defenses playing on short rest.
I would go anything up to Carolina like 3.5. I like Princeton a lot. The way Princeton won that game against Duke, the middle of the field, ground balls, things like that. I just don't think you beat Carolina like that at Carolina on a days like that. Just doesn't strike me as.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of remember last year. Yeah, remember last year when Princeton beat Carolina,
blew them out,
and they looked solid in it, but it was a close game, and then they were just completely out of gas for the Duke game on Sunday.
It might be. I just don't think. I don't think Princeton. Now, look, I think Craddock will play better than you against Duke. I'm just thinking if it looks similar to how that game, if that game plays out the same way. Now, it probably will. It probably won't. But I'm saying that game plays out a similar way. Carolina is not. I don't think Carolina is having a 15-minute scoring drought the way that Duke did in the third quarter. And Duke's offense played well. They did, but Duke still left money on the table. And I just don't think Carolina's offense leaves money on the table. And I think
Princeton also can't have a brain fart like they did it towards the end of the fourth quarter last night too.
Timeout, Matt. On that timeout.
Or just score. I'm sorry, dude. I hate the time is more important. Just score, though. Just score. You're up 3 with 15 seconds left. Like, I score. But no, Princeton won that game through the middle of the field, ground balls, transition. That's Carolina's bag. And now I think Princeton could be Carolina's match in the middle of the field, but it's still tough to beat Carolina that way. Princeton lost faceoffs to Duke. I mean, I think Carolina has the faceoff edge. Goalie play, obviously, as you said, not narratives. Goalie play, Gianfrancaro against his former, backup. Yeah,
that's going to be interesting though. With Gianfrancaro, does he have the edge because he knows Princeton shooters, or do Princeton shooters have the edge because they know his tendencies? That's going to be an intriguing one to watch.
Oh yeah, always a fun one. Madeline's recruited like 10 NCAA tournament, 10 NCAA tournament teams worth of players the last couple of years, it seems like. So again, I think these teams meet again, neutral field in the tournament. I think one, pick me either way. I just think the way it sets up favors Carolina a little bit more. And I think that a game where face-offs lean Carolina and Princeton has to claw back through really winning ground balls and scrapping it out and being physical. I don't know. That's, as we always say, Carolina loves that shit. That's. But look, if Princeton could do that to Carolina, I mean, that would say a lot about the Tigers. But yeah, I can't wait to watch. These are two teams who feel very similar in terms of how they play, the styles up and down the field, transition, physicality. Yeah, I think it's an awesome game. Hopefully, and these regular season games, 2 games in 3 days, usually don't play out the same way as the tournament ones do. They're not. The weather's a little different. It's not the same intensity as tournament games are. So I think those factors aren't as obviously. There's a bit of an edge to Carolina because they're at home and they had the blowout, but they don't have the same factors.
All right. Well, I think I liked our discussion tonight. You know what you should do? You're home or wherever you're watching this.
Like the video. Smash the like button.
Yeah. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. You could also follow us along on social media at @college_Crosse on Twitter. And as always, we'll be back at it midweek. Jake and Safe hit you up with the podcast end, and we'll be back at it next week too. Next week it's Hopkins Cuse week.
Oh baby,
got Sambroni Bowl.
I'm gonna be like Joe Cortez, just like Senator, or like
actually, and we're gonna be like the pregame show for the Central Jersey Derby. Rutgers and Princeton listening to us.
We might need to put a moratorium on mentioning Rutgers in the program. Yeah, just like.
Oh, I didn't realize Hopkins Cuse is on Sunday next week.
On TV too, right?
Yes, finally back on TV.
Yes, got the Cuse Hopkins women finally playing one another too. I can't remember the last time Hopkins Cuse women played one another. I guess now that the Hopkins women are good, I guess they finally sparked that.
Yeah. Notre Dame, Ohio State, and then followed up by a Sunday Cuse Hopkins game. This could be It could be a just devastating or dangerous weekend for Save.
Yes.
It's truly dangerous. Very dangerous weekend.
Right.
Navy
So
Lehigh Friday night, CBS Sports Network. Finally, we've beaten the chokehold of college basketball.
Wow, we're stomping on NCHC Friday night ground to take that, North Dakota Fighting Hawks.
We've got the TV windows have finally there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, you're only 4 weeks away or so from March Madness really winding down, and you really have the world's your oyster for television slots. Just got to get past 2 weeks of conference championships, then CBS Sports Net and BTN open up.
Honestly, it's really good. It's really good for like the entire. March is pretty good. I mean, it gets obviously April. Gets very good, but like it's pretty good in March. There's like multiple TV games every
week. Yeah, so ACC networks for the most part open. BTN starts opening up.
We do got a Saturday ACC network game next week too.
That's what I mentioned. I just mentioned that.
Well, this is with a particular team. I think we can open it up. Ohio State's back. Ohio State's back on the menu, boys.
Just switching that. He just blew. All right. Just go. Blew through my.
On that note, thank you for watching. We'll see you all
today. As Marlon would say.
Dehydrated. I was dehydrated after. Guess what? Fast food.
Not even paying attention. Just blew through my entire setup. Just.
Let's go.
He just blew my entire spot. He has no clue. He has no idea. Unbelievable.
Stay hydrated. Take one guess on what fast food establishment I was at today that made me dehydrated and had to hit up the Kinderlight.
Arby's.
No.
Popeyes?
No, Taco Bell.
No, of course.
That'll do it to you. But stay hydrated.
Get the Baja Blast?
Yes, I did have a Baja Blast.
That
might have been what gave me cramps and dehydrated me.
All right. Let's get out of here. Becky Lynch for president.
See you out there.